Good to see you, Ater, I believe is your name.
Taniks?
Hmm,
How are you doing today?
definitely. Uh, been as calm as I can be. I'm not usually one to sit on a chair. I mean, I have the tail to kind of keep my balance anyway,
Fair enough.
if you
I
don't
mean,
mind.
I can lock myself against walls and that's about it, but a seat's sometimes nice, I
Fair
guess.
enough.
So, I suppose we want to get right down to it. Why have you come today?
Uh, oh, well, I'm pretty sure you are at least aware of my wife, Navi. She has very much pushed for me to get actual well, professional help that isn't her, since, of course, as she words it, emotionally
Conflict of
compromised if
interest,
she were
yeah.
to. Yeah, pretty much. But I've been kind of struggling since the end of October to kind of just be more calm again. As my wife has put it, I've kind of resorted back to being more closed off unless it's around family and certain friends. Mostly due to. How do I best word this? Well, October was not a fun time for me. Being human certainly
Emotionally
kind of
closed
brought in
off.
a.
Okay.
Well, it kind of opened the proverbial dam and kind of let all the negative emotions and all the stuff that kind of
Ah.
fucks me up mentally kind of flow back in, and it was not a good time.
So I'm assuming then you were under the effect of that curse. I wasn't around at the start of the month, you see. I literally just dug
Yeah.
myself out of the grave, trying to figure things out before I got accustomed to things. And well, yeah, suddenly starting to go to social places and realize that a lot of people aren't exactly what they look like because of some kind of magical curse. I realize that there's probably going to be more people like
Yeah.
yourself that have got issues coming to terms with their identity after such a transformative event.
Yeah. Well, not so much coming to terms with my identity. I know who I am. I know what I am, and I've come to terms with that. I have no issues with that, but it's more so having essentially it for context. I mean, technically, I'm mostly mechanical. I mean, I'm about I want to say 80, 85% just mechanical at this point. Even down to things like my heart and my brain, which are pretty much the only like organs really left besides, well, the eyes. That even those are partially mechanical or fully. And I normally didn't have to deal with things like stress or anxiety or even fear. Fear is
Lack of coping
something I have not
mechanisms.
felt in close to about over 100 years now, and apologies, I'm rather old at this point, as some people would word it, but still
I mean, I'm only
young for my
236, so I
species.
mean, you might have a fair few on me, who knows. At this point in time, I've heard people that got six figures.
277.
Nice. Around the same age.
So, but it is more so trying to, I guess, move forward and try and push out all the negative thoughts again. It's even drugs that I have for medical checkups on myself. They even have offered suggestions of maybe I shouldn't try to, suppress any thoughts instead of just, but rather just try to actually seek help. And well, that's why I'm here.
I mean, it's understandable. The main part that I think you've overlooked, you see, is the fact that because you haven't had to have these feelings in so long, you didn't actually have a coping mechanism when you changed and suddenly had these feelings again. At which point in time, just because you've changed back doesn't mean that you haven't had an introspective look at yourself and realized that that is actually something that you lack. Especially going forwards, if these kind of feelings were to once again manifest within yourself, you probably fear that you will suddenly have a difficulty coming to terms with them in a reasonable and expedient manner, thus causing the stress to compound, and a vicious cycle begins. So it's good that you've at least understood in the first place that people that have been giving you advice have been doing so in your best interest, and you're actively following good advice to get more advice from an outside source. So I think you're going to make my job a lot easier for me in the fact that you've got a good logical brain behind yourself, and that you're not worried about actually looking weak in asking for help, as that's what most people fight against when it comes to actually getting help.
Yeah, I struggled with that for quite a long time. Being a former captain and even now doing stuff such as bounty hunter work on the side is something that I've always been kind of, I guess, from previous training and from my old home, I've always been told to kind of just try to not show emotion. And
Bottled.
it has been a recurring thing where, while I've tried to do so, it has caused issues in the past, and I've gotten better at trying not to, well, trying not to just come off as very cold and very just stone-faced, I guess.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with seeming detached from emotion in the first place. And if that's who you are as a person, that's completely understandable. Making a concerned effort to actually show emotion where you feel it, even though you're not used to expressing it, again, goes a long way to show you have emotional maturity. That you're willing to take into account other people's feelings to make sure that they themselves are actually comfortable around you. Even if you're more withdrawn, the fact that you're willing to explain yourself about it, again, makes you emotionally quite healthy. Even if you don't show much of it.
Yeah. It's also a lot more, I guess, for lack of a better term, it's pretty eye-opening as well. I mean, being someone who has gone from being, I guess, mostly on their own for a long time, or most of my life, to now being someone who actually has, I guess, assistants and even friends and acquaintances, and, I mean, fuck, even a family at this point.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Certainly, it's definitely quite the shift, because, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have even, like, concerns when it comes to my own kids, because obviously some of them, I feel like they may want to follow in my footsteps, and some it's like, I don't...
Issues about
Part of me is
expressing
like,
emotion
I don't
with
want them
children.
to, but at the end, I can't really be that person to inhibit them. I mean, they don't even know that I do this kind of line of work. I mean, as far as I know, I run the robotics shop over in Orlando, Soccer.
There's nothing wrong with a healthy work-life separation. The fact that you want to be there for your kids and help them grow and be their own people, they will understand. Because if you talk to them like adults, they will figure it out. If you show that you care for them in the way that you want them to grow up, that you're providing for them, and you teach them the general morals and lessons that are required to actually build a decent person, you know, how to communicate, how to express themselves correctly, not through violence, not through subversion.
So far, which is good.
Yeah.
They've been doing a good job at that so far.
No, you've been doing a good job teaching them the right path to take. It's always going to be the parents' prerogative to make sure that the children are brought up in the right way. If you were hands-off and as emotionally detached as you say you are, you would just be letting them do whatever they want. But I'm assuming, from the way it sounds like it, that you discipline them when they need to be, and you let them express themselves to you. That's healthy.
Yeah, we do. I guess my only concern when it comes to my family is, like I stated before, when it comes to the line of work I actually mainly do, I worry for Because I know at some point they're going to have to know what I do, because it's not just robotics. I mean, I work for Guardian District. Well,
Ah,
not so much for, but I work with them in the sense of Galdier tells me, hey, look, there's,
you need someone
some
picked up and put in a
criminals
cell,
that,
you put them in a cell. Look, I'm a Zafira and I get it.
yeah,
Trust me.
exactly. Either picked up, put in a cell, or bodies brought over to the crematorium from casualties, or if there's
Look,
someone
I
who
may be
is
a
just
doctor. I
way out
still
of
walk
line,
the
I may
streets
take them
carrying a
out.
gun. I'm
Yeah.
meant to help people, but if that is to put someone down, I will definitely put them down. You can't get away with that kind of
As
life outside of Zafira most of the time.
that is where my concern is, because I know at some point I feel like I hope rather later rather than sooner I'm going to have to, of course, sit down with them and talk to them about that, but that's what line of work I do, and I mostly fear for the fact of I don't know how necessarily they will take that,
I
and
think
on
it's going to
top
be
of
a
that,
matter of
if one of them
phrasing.
wants to follow,
Like, there's nothing wrong with
yeah,
people taking other people's lives. It happens. It's a natural part of the cycle. Things are born, things live, things die. Right? Like, we all know it. Shit, I'm living proof of that at this point,
yeah,
ironically enough.
precisely.
But children, especially, well, I mean, it depends. Are you raising them in Zafira or Orlando? Like, if you've got work over at Orlando,
I'm raising them in Orlando.
yeah, okay. I can now see that if they're being raised in Orlando, chances are that they,
Exactly. Now
yeah.
you see where my concern is.
I
'Cause
don't see it as much of a
they-
concern, but yeah, it's a general shift in the culture, or at least how society operates.
Yeah,
Although, from what I've seen in
'cause
Orlando, I've heard that they have kaijus attack there. So, I mean, there's not too much out of the
Yeah.
difference.
it's Orlando. I guess the best way of putting it. I've kind of taken them out a couple times, and they're used to the weird things that happen in Orlando Saga. I mean, for fuck's sake, the last time that I took my son out to at least have some father-son bonding, we're dealing with a sentient vending machine, for fuck's sake. So they're used to the weird things that can be seen in that town.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Zafir, it's a whole different ballpark, because at this point they're not used to the mentality of like, oh, I'm going out to spend time with someone, I better have a gun like on
Yeah.
my side ready,
Well, it's
And
not like everyone
on top
expects
of
to be
that,
dragged down
they-
an alleyway and robbed just because they've got a tiny bit of chrome on them. Like, that's the thing. It shines,
exactly.
someone's going to want to take it. Look, I ran gangs myself when I was young.
Myself, yeah.
In your case, yeah, you've got the intimidation factor.
Yeah.
No one's exactly going to be going around going, yes, the guy that's about twice our size has claws and is definitely synthetic in mostly nature. Let's fuck with them. Probably not going to happen. So if you bring your kids around Zafira, chances are they're not going to have a problem if they're with you. But explaining to them if they're going to be around here on their own when they're older, yeah.
Yeah.
Look, giving it to them straight.
And
That's probably the best thing you can do. Don't try to circumvent the problem. Just going directly, but tactfully. The description of how you're going to have to protect yourself in life is going to come up. You, of all people, obviously understand this.
oh, I know that fully well.
So if you're teaching them
It
basic
was-
self-defense and understanding of what a threat is, they should do fine.
Yeah. The one thing I still there's several things I don't tell them out of fear of them like freaking out. I mean, that one being my line of work, two being technically things about my home, how people like me from where I'm from, we were not seen as people, we were
Childhood
seen as
issues.
just, for example,
Trauma.
someone would view me the same way that they would view like a lawnmower or, just a crane. We were just like construction equipment, or just regular tools to use. That's what we were. We were built and made to be to fill a certain role. In my case, I was meant to be someone who's good at scouting and killing, and them. I don't want them to know, of course, things like that from where I'm from, because where I'm from, it's a horrible place. And they would, of course, most of my kids looking, when it comes to them, they look mostly human, so they would pass fairly well in over there, but if they saw someone who looks like me and seeing how they're treated, then obviously it'd be a complete shift. And
I mean,
on top of that,
racism is a bit of a problem, yeah.
About,
Like,
yeah.
to be fair, Zephyro's getting there with synthetics. Like, I spent a lot of time down at the meat rack. Considering I hadn't thought about giving my services to synthetics. I didn't think that they needed them. I thought that they were going to just be following programming. But 200 years has come a long way with AI, or at least scripts that mimic actual human form and function when it comes to the neural synapses. The fact that, well, a computer is literally just a brain, and vice versa, right? They work the same way, just one's biological.
Yeah. Like the drones I've made sure that I try to avoid a situation where they technically have like a conscience and things like that, because I know that that goes into a whole moral dilemma if I have my drones with like essentially like free will and thinking and being like their own conscience.
Creating a semblance of life without prior consent, forcing it upon.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I always make sure to clarify with people, my drones that I built, those are just that, drones. They don't actually have feelings or a conscience. It is meant to simulate it, where they're able to, at least at most, they kind of analyze things, they learn from what they see and kind of pick out the most logical solution. But in terms of feeling things like love, hatred, sadness, they don't do that.
They've got a personality but no emotion. Smart.
Exactly. So that's how I made them, so that way I don't have people, of course, coming to my house, pitchforks and torches kind of type deal, just going like, I have essentially have people working for me that I'm no better than where I'm from, that kind of thing. It's like, no. I made sure not to go to that point, because obviously I don't want to mimic what people have done to me from where I'm from.
So you've just got, in general, a little bit of anxiety based around if you're doing a good job raising your children and for their futures, which, in all fairness, completely justified. The fact that you're never not going to feel anxious about how your children are turning out, because you're never going to know how they're going to turn out. All you can do is guide them the best as you can.
Yeah.
Plus, you've got your wife, right?
Also, just trying to figure out how to. Yeah. Trust me, she keeps me in check more than you would think. And she is equal parts my wife, but also like my best teammate. She and I have managed to go through hell and back. Not literally, but figuratively through hell and back for various different things. I mean, for fuck's sake, the first mission I went on with her, actually I died protecting her and some other people. But then again, that was back when I was a lot more stubborn. And that was before we even had gotten into a relationship. She barely knew me at that point. But mostly, it's a lot of the just trying to figure out if I'm handling things right with my kids, as well as trying to figure out how to handle things with
basic anxiety,
stressful situations. Because while yes, I'm not trying to suppress any of my negative emotions anymore, it's difficult because I'm used to things like world-ending shit, massive cities being gone. I've dealt with so much just insane shit that the best way it was described to me by actually
Mildly worrying. We're ending things.
an
Okay.
acquaintance of mine by the name of Ethan, not the human Ethan, a synthetic named Ethan.
Purple robe.
Just to clarify, purple robe, like some gold accents.
Yeah, I've had them at the
Yeah.
tables before.
Yeah, he best described it as I don't know how to handle a minor inconvenience or minor amount of stress because everything I'm used to is so major. So
You treat every small problem
I-
as if it was a same scale problem. You don't differentiate. Okay.
Exactly.
That's good to know.
that's what he has at least told me, and I'm like, I guess that makes sense. I mean, the best example he gave me is like I was getting upset over like something very minute in my workshop, and I told him that I immediately just grab my gun and just fire at it. Something just to like kind of like I go to a shooting range essentially to like kind of ease my stress. And he's like, you don't have to go to a shooting range to handle your stress. You can do something that's not super destructive. I'm like, that's what helps me. I don't know.
I mean,
how to
you've
handle
understand
smaller
that it's
things.
your coping mechanism. So obviously you've got a mild anger issue when it comes to a stressful situation that you don't know how to handle. Most of the time, my advice would normally be communicate with someone specifically to make sure that they understand that you're angry and to help you through it, because your wife or your children, for example, if they're around you when that kind of thing kicks in, obviously with your wife, they're going to be more understanding. You know, it's like,
With my kids,
but with your kids, it's going to be a
Yeah.
different thing. So taking a step back from a situation to assess it and clarifying in your head whether or not it's worth taking that normal approach to it is probably the best way of doing it. The step back and follow the logic. From what you've showed me at this point in time, you're a logical person. You want to make sure that you understand the order of operations, how things are meant to be done. Right? You worry about the things that are meant to be done happening in the future, whether the order of operations of like you parenting your children is correct. Don't shy away from talking to your wife just because she also does the same line of work. She's still your partner and your best friend, right?
Yeah, no matter what.
Exactly. I'm here because you need someone as an objective third party. Just to make sure that you understand
Of
that
course.
she's not getting involved in the wrong way. But from what I can see, all of your issues are perfectly normal. At this point in time, you've shown me nothing that would lead me to suspect anything other than a slight stressor of not being able to understand the differentiation between a small and large problem. And that can lead to the small, slight outbursts that you've shown, which may have a little underlying anger issue, but nothing major. Taking the active time to go down to shooting range and actually shoot things as opposed to shooting right then and there on the spot shows that you at least have the patience and forethought of mind to be able to actually take yourself away from a situation to deal with that anger in a not constructive manner, but a healthy one at least. Because you're not wanting to show that to her, and you're not wanting to show that to your kids. So, again, you're following through on good logic here. So far, everything you've told me seems like perfectly natural worries about the world and life. At least what the textbooks tell me.
Yeah.
You seem like a good guy, Taniks. You're just fretting over the small stuff.
People tell me that I come off as a good person, but I've always had I've had trouble, I guess, accepting that because
Look, I
I've
mean,
always
just because
seen
you're a
it
good
as-
person doesn't mean you wouldn't put a bullet in someone's skull. I'd do the same. Trust me. I get you.
yeah, that you
I
know
don't
where I'm
like
coming
doing
from,
it.
then, yes.
I'm not the biggest fan of having to
Yeah.
kill somebody, but I'm a Zephyr, and I know very well that if I'm dragged down an alleyway, it's me or them.
Okay, then you know where I'm coming from. Then. That's
Exactly.
good. I don't enjoy having to take on bounties and possibly kill people, or even have to drag someone kicking and screaming over to a cell in Guardian, but
Look, you're doing it
it's one of
legally.
those
That's even
things.
better than me. I'd technically be killing illegally if someone dragged me down an alleyway. It's self-defense, sure, but, well, just because the ZPD doesn't give a shit about how things are done on the street doesn't mean that it's technically not against the law. The fact that if you're picking up an official bounty off of something, that's gone through the right channels. That's approved. You're actually doing things in a legal manner, which means that the stress about it should be a bit lessened. The fact that obviously your children don't understand how it's done, you can get there. Open them up to the concept. You don't have to rush them. Like, they're going to grow at their own pace anyway. You can probe into their thoughts on that kind of thing when you feel they're ready. Pushing them towards it or keeping it away from them is only going to stagnate whether or not they can actually learn about you. I know it's not a side of you want them to know, but they will want to know you. You're their father, after all, right?
Yeah, oh, trust me, my daughter is usually asking me, like, a bunch of questions and all. She's already asked me for, like, well, I guess, in a sense, it's clothing that would, I guess, more fit for, like, adventuring, like, something that is bulletproof. And I'm like, oh, no. That's where my worries were starting, because I was like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Well,
one of my kids is turning into me.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Look, if you help your daughter follow the same kind of path that you have in a healthier way, because, look, in all fairness, you've turned out really healthy from what I can see. Your coping mechanisms aren't all in place because you haven't had to feel properly for a long time, and having actually had your feelings come back to you for a bit has thrown you off kilter. But the fact that you're coping with them, looking at them objectively and going, I need help with this, and talk to your wife specifically to make sure that she was like, yes, this is an agreement, go get some help, and the fact you've seeked out the help, sat down and talked it out, goes to show that you're looking to try and find the ways to cope. And you've got good mechanisms. Stepping away from a problem, relaxing yourself as best you can so that you can take another look at the problem logically, and then coming up with a solution that doesn't involve you wildly going out there and doing something against your normal nature.
Yeah. Kind of just like taking this all in at this point.
Oh, not a problem at all.
I think you're the first psychiatrist I've ever seen in my life. Like, that I've actually talked to. That isn't, well, my wife, because obviously conflict of interest is...
Look, I'm just a guy trying to help other people. I don't care about the doctorate. Sure, it's nice and fancy, like a Zephyrian kid made good, right? I literally only went for the doctorate for that. I thought it would just be high paying. In the end, I realized that I could help people not turn out like how I was when I was younger. Although I never went into pediatrics, so...
I think I think I've gotten what I need from this then. Unless you see anything else that I may need.
What I will tell you is, well, as a prescription, go to a bookstore and get yourself a journal. Write down your thoughts. Keep track of them. Because if you keep on the same path that you're on now, and you look back and say, hey, yeah, I've made all this progress, it'll help center you. There's nothing wrong with accepting any feelings you do have, the residuals, or any feelings about worry or anxiety you will have in the future. It's perfectly natural.
Gotcha.
But keeping track of all that so you can look back and go, I dealt with that. there was a problem, there's the solution. And seeing page after page of that is only going to help reinforce you. And who knows, maybe one day you can show it to your kids when they're grown adults.
Yeah, definitely. Alright, get a journal, jot down my thoughts, keep track of them. Okay.
Spend some time with your kids.
That's good. Yeah. Oh, I already do that enough, trust me. So that
Then don't stop.
means I'll be... Yeah. Fair enough then. Good to know. I do actually have a question. I'm just wondering, any reason you picked a cafe for just meeting here, or?
I don't really have an office, and the fact that, well, it's more relaxing, and the guy that works the place is happy to take a few credits to step outside for an hour or two. 'Cause it's one of these small places, so... That and the fact that also, if you wanted to run from here because you felt that you were cornered, door's right there and I'm sitting with my back against the wall.
Fair enough. You certainly do good work, Ater. I very much appreciate this. It's certainly an interesting experience. I haven't felt this calm in a while, which is good, so...
You just
don't
needed someone to
feel-
tell you that you weren't crazy. Half the time, that's all it requires. People think that their own emotions are something far bigger than they actually are. And sometimes they are. It's completely understandable. And other times, well, you just need someone to put it in perspective for you, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You've got
Well,
my number, you've
how much
got
do
my
I-
contact details. I'm not even going to charge you. I mean, technically we work together.
Fair enough. I mean, how about this? If anything, next shift, if you want, I'll get drinks on me.
Not like I can drink. I literally went and got the most expensive stuff I could when Gunnar was paying for the rest of the month. Because, yeah. His paycheck's gone.
Oh, yeah, I think I heard about that. He was gambling a bunch.
Yeah.
What was
Look, tell you what, you want to do me a favor? Next time Gunnar comes and makes my table a high roller table, you can come on over or send a drone, pick his ass up and throw him outside for 5 minutes. How about that?
that? Alright,
I can agree to that.
I'll get
That'll
you.
be funny.
Alright. I'll keep note of that then. But thank you very much, Ader. I appreciate it.
It's not a problem.
This is
Again, if you've got any other problems, don't hesitate to call. I can set up another appointment. Maybe I'll get an office eventually, but until now, somewhere small and pokey here in Garden is more than happy enough, right? Little Japan.
want to find, I'll tell you right now, if you ever want to find a good place to, at least, to best word it, if you ever want to find probably a place to sit for an office, probably talk to Galdir. You'd be surprised. That one, he gets around a lot, so he can
Yeah,
definitely
I've
find
seen
you
them.
either a place or someone who knows a place.
I mean, I've got a pokey little apartment not far from here. It's also kind of why I chose this spot. But,
Fair enough.
the weeds of the garden.
But yeah, at least it's an option. And if you decide to go to Galdir at all, just you can tell him I sent you, and he'll understand. Because normally
Next
he
time I
already
see
has
him,
enough
I'll just say
people who
Taniks
really-
says hi.
Yeah, because trust me, he gets enough people going up to him for very stupid things, so it would probably be a
Yeah.
nice breath of fresh air for him to handle something that's very simple and just like, oh yeah, just go to this person. because
Council's changed a lot in 200 years,
he already has
so,
to do.
you know.
I mean, shit, I already have to send over a What time is it? Fuck. Okay, I have to actually head back to the workshop because I need to get Kepri fixed up because I have to send him over to Market District. Wonderful.
Yeah,
Slade
I heard
has-
about all that.
Yeah, Slade has done a big
It's
fuck
all
up
over Metagram.
now.
I keep my eye on the place because, you know, social media kind of helps. So, yeah. I'm going to keep well enough away from that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're gonna go anywhere near Market, just.
Well, if you happen to find anyone that has trauma and needs help afterwards, send them my way. I'll happily talk them through the issues.
Fair enough then. I'll make sure to point them in your direction. Luckily enough, I still have your card.
Yep.
But thank you very much, Ater, and as I usually say, have a good evening, and may my watcher's light guide you on your path.
Have a good one, Taniks. I'll see you at work sometime. Nice guy.